and welcome to TCS News. I'm Neenah.
And I'm Claude.
Today, I will be opening our first story. I will be talking about a crisis in Pakistan. Since December 2018, there has been a rise in the abduction of young Pakistani females from Pakistan. They are being sold to older Chinese men and are being treated horribly. One young female was sold when she was 15. She was treated horribly. She was married to a man that abused, impregnated, and tortured her. This is true in many places across the world, and this needs to stop. Not just the abductions and selling of women, but the dehumanization and mistreatment of women. We let this pass by us much too often.
This is a terrible situation, Neenah, and you're right, it does need to stop. Moving to China, the Chinese government is increasing tariffs on U.S. goods in order to counter the U.S. increasing tariffs on Chinese goods. China will increase tariffs to 25% on more than $60 billion worth of U.S. goods, including cotton, machinery, and grains by June 1st. This move was after the U.S. increased tariffs to 25% on more than $200 billion worth of Chinese goods on Friday. This comes after a failure to reach an agreement over many months of talks, which President Trump claims that China backtracked on some of its trade commitments. Trump will meet Chinese President Xi Jinping at the G20 Economic Summit in Japan next month. Li He, China's top trade negotiator, said that there would be another round of talks in Beijing that will hopefully lead to a deal to stop these tariffs.
So what does this mean for our economy?
Well, the tariffs on U.S. and Chinese goods will cause a rise in prices for consumers, which will end up hurting the American and Chinese economy. However, the American economy will not be able to hold out on these tariffs since the U.S. is still very much dependent on cheap Chinese goods.
Now, we're moving to Africa. As you all know, on Monday, I talked about an extinct bird coming back. Some of you were very shocked. Well, here's my proof. This bird is called the white-throated rail. This bird is an heir species, meaning it is able to come back through an ancestor, which is a duck. Many scientists have studied this. This happens when its closest ancestors mate and form a genetic mutation in the egg, creating a bird. This type of species is extremely rare, and there may be more species like it. Who knows? This could be our peephole to Jurassic Park.
Switching over to medicine, a new report has just came out that low-dose aspirin that is used to treat heart disease and strokes can cause bleeding in the skull for people who do not have any medical history of those conditions. Low-dose aspirins are determined to be between 75 and 100 milligrams, but most over-the-counter aspirins contain 81 milligrams. Researchers studied data from 13 other studies that had over 130,000 people ages 42 to 74 that did not have a history of heart disease or stroke, that were given either low-dose aspirin or a placebo to prevent these conditions. People who took the placebo had a 0.46% risk of having a head bleed during the combined trial periods. For those who took low-dose aspirin, the risk was 0.63%. People from Asian backgrounds and those with a body mass index under 25 had the highest risk. Taking low-dose aspirin every day had been recommended for older adults because of aspirin's ability to prevent platelets from forming a clot. In people who have fatty deposits in their arteries, the plaque can break off and trigger clotting, stopping blood flow to the brain or heart. Although aspirin would stop this process, previous studies had offered conflicting evidence on whether prescribing it increases the risk of bleeding in the skull. With this new evidence, aspirin is no longer recommended as a preventative measure for older adults who do not have a risk of or existing heart disease, according to guidelines announced in March by the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association.
Now let's get into some TCS news. So last Thursday, unfortunately, we had to close our Space Lab with Maxie Lane. I want to give a big shout out to her because she has made our classes so much fun and has expanded our learning, not to mention the great snacks she has brought us. We did amazing projects with her. We learned about the sun and the stars, and we learned about all the amazing elements of space. Thank you so much, Missy Lane.
On Monday, we had an amazing conversation with George Nicholson. He's a friend of Miss Peg's, thus making him a friend of the school. He has done lots of work within the disabled community, helping them attain jobs and giving them roles in his own written screenplays. He came in on Monday and gave us an amazing conversation about life. He taught us about all the life lessons he has learned throughout his life, such as the importance of connections and giving us viewpoints on feelings of depression, anger, and anxiety. His lessons were something everyone in the school needed, especially since school is coming to an end. How did you enjoy the conversation with Neenah?
The conversation was so much fun. We got to interact with our speaker, and I learned how to calm down when I'm stressed. Thank you so much, Mr. George. On Tuesday, Darrell came in for a conversation with. He spoke about his time in Europe. Darrell goes to Howard University. His college gave him the opportunity to study abroad, which is how he got to Europe. He got to see 8 countries and 14 cities. He explained Brexit to us and gave us his input on it and talked to us about socioeconomics. I don't know much about socioeconomics, so he helped me understand a little bit about what it was. However, he didn't just talk about socioeconomics and Brexit. He also talked about the way he was treated in those places and the experience that he wouldn't forget. Thank you for coming to speak up with us, Darrell. We really appreciated it.
On Wednesday, the biology class had a conversation with George Delhunty. He is a retired dean at Goucher College, coming in once already for the biology class. The second time around, he discussed the endocrine system with the class. He also discussed the immune system on a deep but understanding level with the biology students. Thank you so much for coming back to teach a biology class again. I can't wait until I'm able to get on one of your amazing lessons.
Now, before we get into lunches, I would like to give a big thank you to Mimi and Poppy. Thank you for coming in and bringing us lunches and all the snacks and foods you give us to put in the pantry. We love your cooking and we always anticipate when you come in. Also, we love it when we get to see you. The smile on your faces brings us more joy to our day. Thank you so much for the fried chicken, cupcakes, rice, and all the amazing snacks that you gave us. Now, I would like to give our thanks to Miss Gail for bringing in the amazing Domino's pizza. I loved it. Miss Lisa for bringing in the broccoli, mushroom casserole, ice cream cones, and biscuits. And last but not least, my classmate Jacob for the hot dogs and baked beans.
Well, that's the last story of this week's edition of TCS Student News. We hope you enjoy it, and we hope to see you guys again next week.
And it worked.